Today has been an unusual day. I realized much later that the whole day was an experience leading me to this session. So, welcome everyone to the Awaken series, part 23. Don't knock your desires, understand them. So, let me tell you about my day first. I generally wake up in the morning, have my cup of coffee, a cup of green tea, and then I sit to do a crossword, or maybe more than one crossword. That is really my me time. And I did exactly that today. But when I began to do my crossword, I suddenly started receiving information from JadeFire, information that had nothing to do with this meeting. I instantly started noting it down, started making a lot of points. And to my surprise, this went on non-stop for over 2 hours. When it had finished, I was absolutely thrilled with the information that had come through because it's going to add an absolutely fantastic dimension to my work with the Soul Blueprint reports. I'll share the details of that later when I assimilate those points, when I actually work on that, on myself, my family, my friends, and then it shall be shared with you. Once that was over, I just felt this strong urge in me to ask my son if we could have lunch together because he's going to be leaving in about 3 weeks. I knew there was a lot of housework still to be done. I knew I had to sit with JadeFire and get the points of today's meeting. But I said, you know what, just let me do this. And it just spontaneously turned out to be a meeting, a lunch, where the whole family joined in. My daughter, who had a huge assignment, my husband had a lot of work at office, both of them just said, okay, we'll come back later and we'll do it. And the four of us just went off to eat our favorite sizzlers. And it was a long, unhurried lunch. No thought of work, no thought that I had to go and, get points for the meeting. I said, hey, if I don't have the time, JF will give me the points as the meeting rolls. So we returned from the lunch. I was feeling really happy. And I sit and I tell JF, I said, I'm here if you want to give me information for tonight. And I hear his very distinctive chuckle. And he says, we've already given you the information for tonight. And I said, no, what you gave me in the morning has nothing to do with the meeting. And he said, we're not talking of that. You have always, every year, you desire that we give you a birthday gift. And you're turning 60. And so you had told us last week, JF, it has to be a very special birthday gift this year. And this is true. I tell him every year that, hey, You need to give me a birthday gift, and it has to be something substantial, not something wimpish like one little rose at my doorstep or something. It has to be substantial. And I said, oh my God, what could have been more substantial than the information that came in this morning? Then he said, you had a desire to have lunch with your son and your family, and you expressed your desire, and it happened. And I said, yes, you are absolutely right. So he said, you've already experienced a part of what we wish to say tonight. And he gave me a sentence which I've written down, and I'd like to read that. And he said, at most times, people forget life in the busyness of living. And I said, that's so true. That is so true. I could have very easily said, oh, I have this desire, but you know what? I have a lot of work and I've got to do this and I have sessions, and no, I'll do the lunch another time. But that other time doesn't come. And then I got to thinking, I probably gave in to this desire because my son is leaving. But isn't it sad that we wait? Why do we wait till someone is leaving us or we are going to leave? Why do we wait? Why do we really, as JF says, get so caught up in the busyness of living that we forget life? And desire is the foundation stone of life. And JF says, still as long as you have life, you shall have desire. And he said, even that very highly evolved spiritual teacher who chooses to go away into the mountains and leave material life, he does so because he has a desire. He has a desire to attain nirvana, to attain samadhi, to connect to the higher realms, to understand himself. There may be so many, but he goes away because he has a desire. He chooses that path in order to fulfill a desire. And he says, this is so important for everyone to understand. Then I spoke to him and I said, what about the scriptures? So many scriptures. I think scriptures of almost all religious denominations tell us in one way or another that desires are bad. And he said, we once again remind you, when something is written, when something is taught, that truth must align with and resonate with the understanding and the mental consciousness of the people who are going to hear it and listen to it at that time. He says the mistake you all make is that you take something that was written Forget about centuries. You take something that was written many years ago, and then you cling to that as the truth of today. And that doesn't work, because as humanity evolves, the truth has to evolve. It doesn't become a lie. It's just that the truth is peeled away by one layer, and a deeper layer of that same truth is made available to the current human race with its current consciousness, current evolution. And he says, in this day and age where, as he says, I have already said it before, every single living person has awakened. It may not always seem to us that way, but every single living person has awakened. We give you a completely new understanding of desire. And he said, but first we have to tell you what desire is not. Because the misconceptions of what desire is lie very deeply embedded in our conditioned belief system. So he says, desire is not greed at all. Desire is an inner urging, an inner motivating factor to attain a certain goal. He says that simple, that is desire. Greed, on the other hand, is an energy. Again, it makes you go towards your goal, but it makes you attain that goal at any cost. Desire does not exclude the well-being of others. It keeps that very much in mind. Greed does not care about the well-being of others. So desire is not greed at all. Then he goes on to say that desire is not selfishness. What you desire for self and your endeavors to attain that desire is not at all an exercise in selfishness. Because again, he says, desire at every moment considers the well-being of others. Selfishness or self-centeredness or self-absorption is such a limited mind space where only I become important and everyone else can go fly a kite. Desire, on the other hand, says, this is my desire. This is my goal. I am endeavoring to reach that goal, to attain that goal. At every point in time, I'm aware of how my actions will create ripples in the lives of others. And I'm cognizant of them. And I do not sacrifice my goal, but I do not sacrifice the well-being of others either. I find ways to walk that middle path. And he says that is the joy of a desire. It always finds the middle path. Greed and selfishness are not even attempting to find the middle path. And he said, yes, desire and a spiritual way of life not only can go hand in hand, but does go hand in hand. And he says, why do you always, in a very limited manner, consider desire only to be something material? Every single one of you that has joined today's meeting has joined it because of a desire for learning, a desire for awareness, a desire to understand something different. You've come here with a desire. You've come here to fulfill that desire. So you see, desire and spirituality do go hand in hand, not only can go hand in hand. In fact, every meditation that you and I do, every channeling that we attend, every book that we read, every master that we hear, is that not our endeavor to proceed along the spiritual path of life that we have chosen for ourselves? And does that endeavor not come from our desire to pursue that path? So JF says, of course, you can have desires that are of higher energies and desires of lower energies. And he says, we are not using higher and lower as a term of judgment, but we're using it as a term of fact. For example, if I desire to replace this phone with a brand new phone, the latest model, the most expensive that there is, it may come from greed, it may come from selfishness, but it may not. It might actually just come from a desire to have that new technology in my possession. But because that desire is bound to something that is material, doesn't make it bad. Do not jump to that conclusion. Doesn't make it bad, but that desire has a lower frequency energy. Of course, if I desired to kill you, that desire would have a very, very dense energy. The desire to expand our consciousness, the desire to learn new things, the desire of a student who does his or her research in a laboratory in order to write a paper, to come up with some new information, new findings, whether they be medical or electronic or whatever. All of these endeavors have higher energy desires. Again, not because it's a judgment, it's just a fact. This remote and this telephone are both material objects, but their frequencies are different. I don't know which one is the higher or lower, but I know that if I could find a way to know that, I would know that one has a higher or a lower energy. And it is a fact. It is not a judgment. And so also with our desires. There are some desires which we have are lower energies, some that are higher energies, but by far, our desires cannot be labeled good or bad unless, as I said, if we really have a desire to cause harm to someone, or if there is the intention of ill will, then yes, I assume we could call them bad from our earthly perspective. So JF says, when you understand what desire is, and you understand that as long as there is life, there is a desire, you will immediately understand that you cannot suppress desires. In fact, he says, when you attempt to suppress desires, you are doing great harm to yourself. Because every time I suppress a certain desire, for example, if I genuinely desired that most expensive telephone in the world, but for reasons best known to me, I suppress those desires. Every time I see someone with that phone, even if I'm not consciously aware of it, my system will be filled with envy and jealousy. My system could also be filled with shame that I'm not rich enough to afford that phone. By suppressing our desires and by therefore encouraging energies into our systems which we know are not helpful for our evolution, we are in fact creating within our systems greed and selfishness. And we are moving away from the authenticity of desire. So he says, do not suppress your desires. If there is a desire you are not happy about, no judgment, you are not happy about a certain desire, then understand your desire. Where does it come from? So if I wish to cause you harm, before I proceed to make an effort to do that, JF says just wait and introspect. Where is this desire coming from? Why? Why do I desire to harm this person? From which inner pain or inner wounding is this desire stemming? Can I come into a state of healing or come into a state of safety by not moving towards this desire, but by choosing another line, another option, another choice that would make me feel as safe or that would give me as much healing? So every desire has to be understood, not suppressed. And JF says, when we say every, we mean every. And so he puts a question to you. Why do you attend every part of the Awaken series? Or if you do not attend it, why do you go back and hear the recording? What is driving you? It could be the genuine reason that there is something of value, wisdom, knowledge that you are imbibing. But JF says, have you considered that there could be one more possibility? He doesn't say that that's what you are coming for. He says, just consider that there could be that possibility. You would like others to believe that you have chosen a spiritual way of life. You have chosen to expand your consciousness. because that in some way gives you validation or approval or attention. What if that was the reason behind the desire? And he says that's fine as well. You can still come to every Awaken series, but at least you will know why you are coming. And he says that is all that is required, an understanding, so that there is no suppression of truth. I reminded him of the legends and the myths and the epics where, we've heard of people going through abstinence and harsh self-discipline over so many years. And he said, if that comes from a genuine desire to find their soul path, then that abstinence is also fine. Because then that is not a suppression of desire. That is, in fact, a desire that is being fulfilled. If I am a person who believed that if I give up all food for a month, then that is the way I shall attain inner purity, then that desire is an authentic desire for me and I fulfill it. But if I maintain that 1 month very strict and severe fast because the religious tenets tell me to do that, because the elders in the family tell me to do that, because I'm scared of how society will judge me, then you have suppressed your authentic desire. And when you suppress your authentic desire, your desire grows stronger. So you will not eat for those 30 days, but for those 30 days, you will be thinking of nothing else but food. You might think more of food than you've ever thought before. And JadeFire says you have already broken the fast. So he repeats, don't knock your desires, understand them. And then he went on to give me information that I'm now going to look at my notes very carefully, because this is completely new information, even for me. He says, all of you know by now that your emotional body has a kind of compartment which is known as the pain body. And the pain and the wounding of every single experience that you have, whether embodied in this body or in all other bodies, all those experiences remain in that pain body. He says you also have a desire body. But it's different from the pain body. The pain body, he says, lies within, in the emotional energy field. The desire body lies outside, in the astral body. The astral body is is the closest to your physical body. And it literally takes the shape, every bend, every curve, every roll, every bit of fat. It takes the shape of your physical body. And it changes, the shape changes as your physical body changes. In this astral body lies an energy field that you could call a subsect of the astral field. and that is your desire body. That field of energy that JF says is your desire body contains all your wishes, your goals, your thoughts, your emotions, even wishes that you are not even cognizant of. For example, this morning, I did not wake up saying, hey, today I would like my birthday gift, because today is not my birthday. My birthday is still a few days away. But the wish that I in any case make every year, which I also made this year, which I make on the 1st of July every year, giving him a full 11 days to conceive my gift. That has already been made. And that energy is in my desire body. When everything aligned together, it seemed like the perfect time to give me that gift. So, what if it's a few days early? I loved it. I love it. And what is wonderful is I'm so happy it's come a few days early, because before I turn 60, I am going to work on that information on myself, so that on the day of my birthday, I have experienced that wisdom. What a perfect way to give me that gift. Because the desire body has already recorded my wish. Now, because it records all my wishes, all my desires, my goals, my thoughts, and my feelings, it is my desire body that impels me to take actions. Now, here is another level of information about ourselves. What exactly and which energy exactly impels you into, let us say, going to the kitchen and opening the refrigerator and popping a piece of chocolate into your mouth? Did you ever consider what? How does that happen? Sometimes, I have absolutely no conscious desire, but I will find myself going into the kitchen, opening the fridge, and almost unconsciously reaching for that cheese and having a wedge of cheese. Very often, I don't even have a conscious desire for that cheese. But obviously, I am not conscious of that desire, but my desire body is. And so it says, hey, Ellaeenah wants cheese. So it pushes me out of my chair, makes me go into the kitchen, open the fridge, pick up the box of cheese, cut a wedge, and pop it into my mouth. All actions have been directed without my conscious awareness by my desire body. This made me sit back and think of the many times I've read in newspapers or, even TV channels that have maybe carried some news where someone's committed a crime and they are questioned about it, and they genuinely seem to answer when they say, I don't know why I did it. I now understand that just like I didn't consciously know that I want a piece of cheese, and that desire was so deeply unconscious. It's just a matter of desire to desire. That person had an unconscious desire which made him take those actions. When he thinks about it, he still does not have the conscious awareness of why did I do that? Why did I do that? I remember many years ago when I was a teacher, we were on a school trip. I was with my high schoolers. And one of the kids, after a trip, when we returned to our hotel, came and told me that XYZ had taken costume jewelry, something really cheap, but had taken it, put it into her bag, and had not paid for it. And I called her. Now, I know that money is not of consequence because she comes from a very, very wealthy family. So I asked her, I said, why? She couldn't answer me. She just said, I don't know. I just felt like. And I said, what do you mean felt like? Why did you do it? Try to think. She said, I don't know. I just wanted to, just felt like. Again, obviously, there was a desire she was not conscious of, which impelled her to take these actions. So JF says, if you are taking action, whether good or bad, he says, do not label. If you are taking action that you do not know why you are taking, then become aware that there is a desire within your desire body that you are not aware of. And endeavor to know that desire, endeavor to understand that desire, so that your actions become more and more conscious and less unconscious. Every desire that is suppressed adds strength to the desire body. Yeah. Every desire that is suppressed adds strength to the desire body. JadeFire says there is a bridge between our consciousness and our actions. Depending on how expanded my consciousness is, my actions will follow from that. But what is that bridges the consciousness with action? That bridge is the desire body. Now hear this well. Consciousness, action. The bridge that lies between them is the desire body. Consciousness in everything is the wellspring. Everything arises from consciousness. Everything arises from consciousness. What you call good, what you call bad, everything arises from consciousness. There is no other place that it can arise from. Your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, your goals, your wishes, your desires all come from consciousness. He says, understand the consciousness of a person who has lived in appallingly poor, deprived conditions, who has witnessed from the time he opened his eyes, events that were cruel, bestial, harsh. He says, you don't have to be evolved to make a very fair guess about what kind of consciousness does this person have. And then look at another person, has been born into a rather privileged home. Parents have been religious, by and large spiritual as well. There is talk of meditation, there is talk of kindness, compassion. The family members are charitable, giving. What is the consciousness of that person? Person A has a consciousness that has energies that are very dense, very dark. These energies travel up into the desire body and create the action. So the desire to have what someone else has. Action is theft, robbery. The desire to take revenge. Because my parents were brutally murdered. Action could be murder. Let's look at B person. The desire to help out in times of COVID. The consciousness arises into that. The action is, let's say, food cooked or actions taken, efforts made to help people. On what grounds, JF asks, on what grounds would you judge A or B? A's consciousness is the result of his life journey. B's consciousness is the result of his life journey. How then can you label one good or bad? It is what it is. The consciousness gives rise to certain desires, and those desires give rise to actions. And those actions are judged, penalized maybe. But who takes the effort to go backwards and say, this was the action, what was the desire? If this is the desire, what is the consciousness from where it sprung? And if this is the consciousness, what is the life journey? And JF reminds us of an earlier Awaken series where he speaks of judgment and justice and punishment. The only way that your desire can be transmuted from a lower energy to a higher energy is to change that consciousness pool of energy. The only way. There is no other way to change our desires. By suppressing our desires, by trying to kill our desires, by meditating for 40 hours or 40 days, hoping that that will take away your desire for alcohol, will not work. because you are attempting to suppress the desire instead of understanding it. If you understood it, it would take you to the wellspring of consciousness that would tell you, that would help you to understand the life journey, the events and experiences in that life journey which arise, which give rise to that desire, to that action. Do you really think that an alcoholic or a drug addict or a regular smoker who smokes 60 cigarettes a day, do you think that they are stupid? That they do not know the ill effects? But they still take that action because it is still driven by this desire body, which is still driven by the consciousness, which is still driven by the experiences. To change that, you have to go to those experiences that give rise to the consciousness. And JadeFire says, that takes you into the realm of, yes, meditation is certainly a part of it. Yes, energy healing is certainly a part of it. But that's not the only answer. You have to understand the life energy that has caused this consciousness. And that life energy, the effects of that life energy have to be transmuted patiently, with love, with mercy, with understanding. Then that consciousness changes. And he says, as soon as consciousness changes, the desire body changes, because it is a constantly changing desire body. The desire body constantly changes. He says the desire body of an infant is way different from the desire body of a young girl going through puberty, which is absolutely different from a young woman, which is absolutely different from an old woman. As you grow and as your experiences shift, your desire body changes. But all the changes are directed by that consciousness pool. Then he went on to tell me something that really made me go, wow. And he says, it's not only human beings that have a desire body. He says, your very earth, your planet has a desire body. And it is the collective desire body that feeds the consciousness of plants, animals, minerals, and man. And then he says, do you now understand why in the last decade there has been this surge of people seeking answers, looking for coaches, looking for gurus, trying to find a spiritual reason, a spiritual purpose? He says their consciousness has been influenced by the desire body of Earth. Earth's desire to evolve, to shift, to change, to move to a higher energy bandwidth. And I said, wow, that just makes so much sense. It just makes so much sense. And he says this also works in a different way. When Earth desires a certain kind of cleansing to take place. The consciousness of that region, plants, animals, minerals, will change, and there could be things like earthquakes, forest fires, even man-made disasters. Quite amazing, isn't it? And then he goes on to amaze me even more. He says this desire body does not stay back after death. The reason is, he says, it's not part of your physical body at all, it's your astral energy. And it is that energy that moves forward. So your desire body continues to move ahead with your soul energies even after we die. And he says it remains, the desire body remains, even as we are put into the healing chamber. It remains even as we go through the reviewal chamber. It finally dissipates, JF says. Let me tell you. So the desire body remains till as long as spirit or soul moves into the fullness of its commitment to service in the spiritual plane. It is only at this time that the desire body dissipates all of its energies. Fullness of commitment to service in the spiritual plane. There is a purpose that the soul has in the earthly plane and in the spiritual plane. And it has to move into that service 100%. Till it does that, whether it takes 3 of our earth years, 5 of our earth years is immaterial. Till it does that, the desire body remains attached to the spirit. As soon as the spirit moves into the fullness of service, consciousness changes, desire body dissipates its energies. I find this intriguing. Then he tells me this last bit. The desire body reforms itself just a few hours before the next birth. It does not form itself in the first trimester, second trimester, beginning of the third trimester. No. Just a few hours before the birthing. That is why JF says that those children who die in utero do not yet have a desire body. This desire body comes and clings to the astral body and then gets taken into the astral body just a few hours before the actual birth. The desire body reforms itself into an energy field that is based entirely upon the soul blueprint choice of that person who is going to be born. The desire body is entirely based upon those choices. That person has already made choices. These choices are the desires of this person, who is the embodied soul. So the soul's desires are noted. And just before the physical birthing, this desire body created out of these desires attaches itself to the astral, is taken into the astral. And when the baby is born, is already attached to the baby. And then based on that desire body, the baby has all the experiences that it has chosen for itself as a soul. This made so much sense to me when I have asked JF so many times. A 3-month-old baby, JF, leukemia, a 3-month-old baby with cancer. Why? Why? What does this 3-month-old baby have of anger or rage or negativity or fear? Today I got my answer. The soul has made its choices. Its choices are recorded as desires. These desires form the desire body. They are attached to the baby at birth. From that moment of birthing, the desire body goes into action, becomes the bridge between consciousness and action. And JF says, to shift that consciousness, to transmute that consciousness, consciously live in awareness of oneness, consciously live in awareness of abundance, consciously live in awareness of non-judgment, consciously live in awareness of grace and mercy, and consciously live in awareness of love. When you live this kind of a conscious life, the desire body becomes a completely different desire body and brings to you experiences that you have so joyfully had, experiences where fabulous new teachers have come into your life, beautiful books and movies have come into your life, workshops and masterclasses have come into your life, Awaken series have come into your life. Because your consciousness is transmuting. So your desires are transmuting, so the actions are shifting and changing. And may we continue with this transmutation so that our desire body moves into its highest energy, and that everything that our souls have made choices about, the desires of our soul, are consciously and purposefully attained before we move into light. Thank you very much. God bless you. Love you all. And yes, next week there is no Awaken series. I have family visiting, so no Awaken series. Next week we shall meet after a fortnight. Till then, stay happy. Big hug.